So good evening and welcome to A School Called the Universe, episode 3. And tonight's episode is about, again, it's a culmination of 3 chapters in my book, which I've put into a simplified sort of question and answer explanation format. And tonight is really, the book is written in several different ways, as I explained in the first episode. And tonight's episode really tackles it from almost a quantum science, quantum physics point of view, because it goes into the mathematics of the separation and how we've ended up as how one Holy Son of God has ended up seemingly in 8 billion characters on this planet and 9 septillion throughout the universe, and how on earth did we even conjure up this crazy idea of splitting and fracturing ourselves up. But as I take you through it, it'll make perfect logical sense, and you'll realize, okay, that's completely natural. I'm doing this all the time to myself anyway, so I must have been doing this right from the beginning, and it all becomes pretty logical. So one of the most common asked questions, especially by people who are struggling with whatever they're struggling with, relationship, loss of a loved one, or just suffering or pain in some sort, is they will say, so why would God allow me or his son to fall asleep and dream up this universe, dream of separation, dream of himself separated from God? Why would the Son of God fall asleep and not forget it, when not remember himself and not remember God? Why would he do that? Why would you do that? And what's also quite funny is quite often you get people that get very angry and project it towards the author, the teacher, the speaker. And you can see it even in some of Ken's videos where people get quite angry, like, but why did the Son of God do this? It's like, it's not the Son of God did it. You did it. You, Holy Son of God, you did this to yourself. But because of the beautiful fail-safe device that your fear set in, your fear, ego, set in, called the secret dream or the veil of forgetfulness, you can't remember. And now you get very angry, and you again get angry with the author or the speaker or the teacher, which is what you've been doing since you've separated. And that is projecting your anger and self-hatred onto the author. And you could hear the answer a million times, and it doesn't serve your egoic searching mind, and you're not happy with the question, even though it is a question that cannot be answered by anyone but yourself as you awaken to self. So why would God let his son fall asleep and dream of separation? First of all, that's just a story. Pause there for a second. God character, son character, son falls asleep and dreams they're somewhere else. There's no character called God. There's no character called son. There's no son fell asleep and dreamt of something else. These are stories, concessionary ways that we explain the unexplainable. And those that want to put words and a deep and a clarification of this come up with the story: father, son, sleep, dream of separation. Now, when I use the word energy, there's immediately people that get up in arms. Oh, there's no energy. It's all energy. Science will prove everything is energy. But energy and electricity and light that we are aware of is artificial. True energy is just beautiful love extending, the essence of love extending forever in all directions, presently here now, into infinity and beyond. So for the sake of this explanation, let's just imagine a ball of gentle white light forever extending. Why? Because that's what it does. That's what love does, forever extend. And remember, love is not attraction and affection. It's demonstrated that way. Love is pure acceptance of what is. It's just beingness, completely at peace with itself being, ever extending its being. And so it's just imagine a ball of light ever extending, and light is made up of light cells, and those light cells are extensions of the source, and they forever extend the self same thought, love, forever. So a thought in God's mind, a thought in source energy extends the thought of love. That's it. Why would one cell of love, ever extending love, choose to fall asleep? We cannot answer that. I can speculate, and I can speculate through deductive analysis, through my own natural curiosity to understand what is and why what is what it is. You get trapped in this. So as a young kid, what's the first question you ask as soon as you can learn to speak? Why? Don't do that. Why? Do this. Why? Why? And so it's unnatural. It's completely natural to want to know whatever. And so this beautiful extension energy of God, pure energy, ever extending, has a glitch. And it's over. And it's over. And continues. It glitched for a billionth of a second and continued to extend the light, the love it is. But as a story, that glitch just seems to take in 16 billion years and counting. So to use a story, the Son of God, a being in beingness, wanted to know what is the opposite of this incredible all-encompassing bliss. And what is all-encompassing has no opposite. So what can something that is everything know that's the opposite of all-knowingness, all-encompassing? Nothing. It can know nothing is the opposite of all-encompassing. In actual fact, has no opposite. So the answer is nothing. So if the sun is ever extending, it can only know nothing. And if God, everything, all-knowing, all-presence, all-pervading awareness is explained as light, then the opposite of that, which is nothing, is the opposite of that, is pure darkness. Because what's all-encompassing has no opposite. And to explain that, I'm going to give you I'm going to share with you a drawing that pretty much explains it. So, but for the sake of the direct experience, now our direct experience that I've taught and that other teachers before me have taught is the direct path inwards, the self-inquiry. So just imagine you are pure energy. And for a second, if you will, for a few seconds, if you will, just close your eyes, and just imagine you just pure love, light, ever extending. And for a moment, you close your eyes and it goes completely dark. And it stays dark because you wanted to know no thing. You wanted to know nothing. You wanted to know the opposite of all encompassing. You wanted to know the opposite of love. You want to know the opposite of self, love, God, and all there is. And there's nothing. So you know now nothing. You just fall asleep and there's nothing. Just darkness. But of course, that which is all encompassing can't let a part of itself forget itself. So the minute the son falls asleep, the father story calls the son to awaken. Now, in complete and total darkness, you've now forgotten what you are. So you're unaware. How are we aware in the dream state? We're aware through our senses, seeing, feeling, smelling, touching, perceiving. in illusion, perception, and senses. Sense perception is how we are aware. In awareness, how are we aware? Without senses, we are just aware. That which makes all sense doesn't need senses. And so in the darkness, the son becomes aware of his father's voice. And since darkness and energy, and his voice is just his father's energy, and energy is pure light. And in the darkness, the son sees light, focuses on the light, because the rest of it is the absence of everything, just pure darkness. So all attention goes to the light. And imagine you're in a pitch black room and you see a light. That light becomes all encompassing for you. And as you focus on it, whoom, big bang. As you focus on the light, you infuse with the light, you join with the light pulls you in. And because you're unaware of what you are, you're unaware of being aware, you're unaware of being, that light splits up and gets subdivided. It just explodes in all direction and fills you with light awareness. But remember, you've asked to know the opposite all encompassing. So it doesn't completely remove the darkness. It gives you an opportunity to realize the difference between darkness and light. And so in our mind, we infuse with this light, and we start playing with it. We start playing with shapes and energy. We start playing with the essence of self, not realizing the light is our self. The very essence of what we are is light. And to share that with you, I'm going to share a screen with you. So imagine, if you will, the circle that shows the I am is the Son of God, fallen asleep. Imagine the blue background is God. Inside God is the mind of the dreamer, the mind of the Son, the extension of. And that's the essence of self, is I am, it's the I. It's the I am is the minute it falls asleep. So it starts to become self-aware. In actual fact, in becoming self-aware, it becomes unaware of what self is. And so the second division, as it fuses with the light, is it splits itself in two. And we have that ancient symbol called the yin yang, darkness within light, light within darkness. It splits itself into two energies, in order for it to observe itself from its polar opposite self. Is that making sense? That's how we become self-aware, light and darkness moving around itself, because it's not static. It's constant extension. So it seems like a circular movement around itself. It becomes conscious of its polarity. It starts to become aware of what it is through what it's not. Am I this or am I that? And that's the beginning of I am ... I am this, I am that, the first fall. And if you look at the way that we awaken, we return this up the same sequence. And whereas I am was the first movement of falling asleep, I am becomes the final step before I. And there even I am dissolves, and there's just pure awareness of being. In the first separation, where we split into two, and as I explained last week, in my travel, as I died and went to spirit world and ascended up the different layers of conscious awareness beyond the level I was at, there were these two spheres which I couldn't access, these two all-encompassing spheres, and one was light and one was dark, and one was masculine and one was feminine. That was the first split of self. So now when you're dreaming, you're not splitting yourself off and chucking it in another direction. You're not splitting from. It's an extension, because all of it's extension. God is extending. So even in your dream, it's all extension. But because you're not aware that it's extension of you, your extension then becomes perceived as outside you. And there's actually nothing outside you, as you are not outside God, and therefore nothing can be outside you. So the masculine and the feminine. There's the beautiful story of Adam and Eve. In every ancient teaching, there'll be the masculine, the feminine, the yin, the yang, the dark, the light, the good, the bad. It's trying to make sense of itself by looking at itself and realizing I am this because I'm not that, the neti, not this, not this, not that, not this. I am not this. And that's why eventually, as we return to awakened awareness, it goes into I am, and then we drop that too. So the second fall, the second split from awareness, from sharing God's being, was, remember, this is happening in our dreaming mind now. This is all happening in mind, in our mind, as we are happening in God's mind, the extension of. But after swirling around each other, the dance of light and darkness, and that's why in the biblical text is saying first God created light and darkness. So who's God that created light and darkness, as in the Bible? It's the Son of God dreaming. He creates light and darkness. That's it. It's not God, all-encompassing God, the high spirit or immortal spirit or Tao, that's creating light and darkness. It's the light and darkness that the Bible speaks of is what's occurring in the dreaming mind, the dreaming Son of God's mind. Okay, so he's now unaware, looking at the light and looking at the dark from within himself. He's unaware of what he is. So he decides to split again. Now he's already split from one into two. So splitting into two again, which would then mean there'd be 4 particles, wouldn't work because he's already realized and splitting up twice is not enough. So he splits 3 times. So you end up with 6 round dark circles, 6 fractured cells in going in one direction, and 6 fractured cells in another direction. And now you have the split of 12. And by the way, that's exactly how the atom splits when the sperm hits the embryo and life form takes form. So there's the Fibonacci sequence. And so you have the 12 aspects of conscious awareness, as in the Kabbalistic tree of life. You find this in the I Ching. You find this in the Tao Te Ching. You find it in sacred geometries. You find it everywhere. There's a frequency sequence to the split. And when people start tapping into higher awareness, they'll call these 12 the sacred 12, or the archangels, or the 12 aspects, or the 12 creators of the universe. Now, it's yourself falling asleep. Just remember, this is all you happening to you. You fall asleep, you split yourself into 2. You fall asleep, you now split yourself into 12. You're now experiencing yourself through 12 different thoughts. These are simply 12 thoughts about what you could be in order to remember what this is. And that doesn't work. And so you continue to split, and you split yourself. Now you go back into a sequence of 3 splits, 12 times 12 times 12, 1,728. And this is what's known as, in again, ancient mysteries, the Elohim. You find this in the Kabbalah. You find this in the I Ching. You find this in the Greek mysteries. You find this in the Roman mysteries. You find it in the mystery schools. You find it in the command. You find it everywhere. And then they get given names and made into something special. These are aspects of self, the Elohim, the creators of the law of duality, the creators of the laws of the universe, not the law of God, which is the law of one. What's given to one is given to all, and everything is equal, and everything is extending love forever. These become the laws which then set up our universe. So now there's 1,728 beings. And just by the way, it's from this level of conscious awareness that I projected into physical form, if you're curious. And this is not about ranking and how special I am. That's why in this crazy cowboy South African biker dude projection, I was aware of all the different layers of self. And in this lifetime, it was to access the sacred 12 conscious awareness, which I was able to do at the age of 33 after my dying process. And then the whole thing made perfect sense as to how I've done this to myself And through now one of us accessing this, it's now shared with the rest of the mind, not just through my books, because that's irrelevant. Just alone in this self-projection, knowing it's now shared equally amongst all gazillions of us. Okay, so at this level, we're just energy creating shapes. Remember, it's just nebula of energy swirling around itself. That's what it appears to the scientific eye, just energy traveling, creating, it's starting to create formations of energy, which eventually take form of galaxies. They start to become galaxies, the myriads of galaxies throughout the universe. And now there's a yellow line. Okay. And it's at this level that something very interesting starts to happen through the 1,728 fractals of ourself, half of them in light, half of them in darkness, observing self, this play of light and darkness swirling around itself. As it creates, and it doesn't like what it makes manifest, because creation is making manifest in the dream, space and time. It starts to imagine. And through imagination, I am age. Whatever it makes manifest cannot hang on to that energy. So it starts to dissolve and die off, and it has to reimagine and re-energize. And so there's the law of reciprocity is starting to play out. It's starting to realize how it works. Now, already at this stage, it's unaware it fell asleep. In the two subdivisions from I am to the yin yang to the sacred 12, by the time it's 1,728, it's already forgotten any inkling of what it is. The minute it fell asleep, it forgot what it is. But now any remnants of any possible memory of having realized self and source is now gone. And so it sets up a place within this energy in which it can interact with itself, and it starts to agree to certain rules, certain laws of the universe. And beyond that yellow line is now the making manifest of what we call the spirit world. And as we do that, we split up. And so you've got 1,728 times 1,728 times it's now caught in the pattern of three subdivisions. Because it's now reckoned after the first three divisional split that by multiplying itself, so in other words, times three, cubing itself, the cube, we think we start to make sense to ourselves. All we do is actually just going deeper and deeper. But it's a great story. And so by the time we fall for the fifth time, the time we fracture for the fifth time, which is the fifth dimension of space-time, first, second, third, fourth, because there's only really one dimension, that's God's dimension. But by the time we've split 5 times and we've trapped into the fifth dimensional fall, the spirit world we create now becomes our home. Now, in the spirit world, there's not only 5,159,780 and 352 beings. A part of ourself is still at the highest level. And we get a sense of that self, and we start to imagine that self must be God. So we start to imagine our first fractured self, ourself is God. And God is confused and completely random and creates and destroys. And so fear sets in. Our first thought of separation is fear. I've done something wrong. In order to have done something wrong, okay, I'm definitely unworthy. If I'm unworthy, that's why I've been rejected. That's why I can't remember my source. I'm rejected, I feel abandoned. I've done something so wrong, I've sinned. I'm going to get punished for this. And now fear enters my dream. And in order to not feel this fear and not to be punished by this imaginary God we have made up, I, the dreamer, has made up, I fracture myself again. And if you can say that number, good on you. But we're now talking about trillions of beings. And it's the sixth form. And it's at this level that we choose to hide fear from ourselves. And the veil is created, the secret dream. So what I now do is I fracture myself out into gazillions of beings and project my fear, sin, and guilt onto each other and hold unto the great I am, which is actually just myself, which I cannot remember, that I'm wholly innocent and everyone else is guilty. Everyone else must have sinned. Everyone else is unworthy. And the minute I project myself outwards, I choose to forget. And it's at that instant that I project myself into forms. So in the fifth form, it's spirit world. It's thought form, spirit, thought form. By the time I go into the sixth subdivision, because I'm lost to spirit, I need to get more duality. I need to lower my vibration until space-time seems to take matter. And so I now project scarcity into space-time, physicality. Scarcity, why? Nothing I project lasts forever. It has a lifespan. But it goes into immediate amnesia the minute I project it into form. It inside itself is the essence of itself because it's still in God. But I've forgotten what I am. And so I can project my sin, my fear, my guilt, which I've imagined in order to appease a God I've imagined, not realizing that this God I'm trying to appease is myself, who shares his self with God. I've forgotten. At this stage of separation, we're completely unaware. And realizing that this energy cannot sustain itself, I fracture even further, the seventh form. And I create the most darkest realm I can imagine, which is to kill or be killed, the realm of cause and effect. And in order to survive, and these fractures of myself to survive, I create the myriads of life forms that there are throughout the universe. And kill or be killed, eat or be eaten now becomes the way. It's pure instinct, it's pure survival. And I'm now trapped between the seventh and sixth dimension, and I get recycled into the fifth dimension. So a part of myself, spirit, is in the fifth dimension, projecting into the sixth dimension and into the seventh dimension. So part of the spirit in the fifth dimension projects the seventh dimension, the animal kingdom, and the plant kingdom. It's all ourself projecting into physical form, desperately trying to remember the I am before I fell asleep. And so as we travel back up this pyramid, there's parts of ourself that is the I am. There's part of ourself that's light and darkness, yin yang. There's parts of ourself that is the archangel, the messenger. There's parts of ourself that is the creation of thought and concept and idea in order to realize what we are through the experience of what we're not. And there's a part of ourself trapped in form, recycling between the fifth, sixth, and seventh dimension over and over again. By the time you're sentient human, you're no longer at the seventh dimension. You're now sixth dimension. In your prior projections where you fractured yourself, you yourself were part of making the myriads of life forms throughout this world and the galaxy, which is why some of you have a natural affinity to flowers. You were part of the manifestation of flowers. Some of you to animals, because you were part of the manifestation of animals. That's why some of you have such an affinity to wanting to save forests and the ocean and ocean life and sky and travel, because you were part of the manifestation of what today is animals, plant life, bird life, and all forms of life. All of it is you. We want to nurture Mother Earth. You've manifested it. You've manifested it in order to realize what you are through the experience of what you're not. But what you've been doing, what we've been doing, what I've been doing since I fell asleep, is I've been hurting parts of myself in order to project my sin, my fear, my guilt, my unworthiness, and my sense of abandonment from God onto someone else and say, I am innocent. This world has made me a victim. Everyone else is to blame. And we do that throughout our lives. We find every single reason to find fault with someone else. We can't not comment. We have to find fault. We have to find reasons to be angry. We want to justify our anger at ourselves. So remember this, every time you get angry with anything, every time you want to blame someone, every time you want to hold anyone else responsible, you're doing unto yourself what you've been doing since the minute you fell asleep. You wanted to project your sin, fear, and guilt, your anger, your shamedness, your fear of God, your fear of being punished, your fear of retribution. You wanted to hold yourself innocent and blame everybody else for the shit you've created, because it's all one indivisible self. Right now, you looking at this screen, looking at me talking, it's just an aspect of yourself, remembering self, talking to yourself, reminding self of self. In essence, it's just one big mind fuck we've given ourselves. We're just fucking with ourselves. In more than one way. We fuck ourselves and make babies. Fractures of self. It's crazy. But when you start to realize what it is, you realize, but thank God that love is what I am. Source energy cannot abandon itself. And so I'm but looking, and since space-time doesn't exist, I'm but looking on a dream I've had from the endpoint, realizing I am, and realizing that the moment I said I am, I fucked it up solidly. I fucked up when I said I am, because I didn't stop with I am. I went, I am this. And the minute I went, I am this, I became, I am that, and I am not this, and I am not that. And before you know it, the billions and myriads of fractal selves of what I can and cannot be. And then, of course, I had to blame that half for being full of shit, and that half was good. And then I try to cluster into groups, and I try to cluster into beliefs and ideas. And before you know it, the whole scarcity principle really took off. And then I try and hang on to energy for myself and protect it from everybody else and give it to no one else and share it with myself. And so now we have borders, and we have wars, and we have race, and we have color, we have creed, and we have sex, and we now fuck the whole thing up. There's this whole movement in the world right now that wants everybody to become androgynous and no sex and it's male and female. Why? Why? We stop breeding and we stop fucking the planet up. Why? Because some greedy people want to hang on to the power. Why? Because deep in the deep-rooted subconscious is the I am. And the I am has no sex, and it's no female, there's no yin, there's no yang, there's no forward, there's no back, there's no light, there's no dark, there's no you, there's no me, there's just I am, and then I am dissolves, and then there's just God is. And that's in the sequence of awakening, we get to that point of I am. Full stop. I am. God is. And then even that dissolves. Even that dissolves. And there's just the knowing of self. And the world's knowing is not knowing anything. The worldly knowledge, the universal knowledge, the collective universal knowledge is knowing nothing. There's two types of perspectives from which we view ourselves. We have the universal perspective as the observer, in which we view ourselves as all of this. The entire activity of the universe is my I am universal perspective. And then there's the individual perspective. And because never the two shall meet, we keep ourselves unaware of being aware. And yet all of it is you, Holy Son of God. All of it is you. I'll pause there and take some questions. Now, that was just a mathematical explanation. And great teachers and quantum physicists out there, Bernardo Kastrup is one of them, for example. He's come across the sequence. He's realizing that the great scientists today that are not following the materialistical principle and believe that consciousness exists in material are starting to realize material space-time happens in consciousness, dream consciousness. And when I speak consciousness, I'm speaking of dream state. And when I speak awareness, I'm speaking of God, self, Christ, ever extending. Sometimes teachers like Rupert Spira say pure consciousness instead of awareness, and it's quite interchangeable. And so be aware of what the teacher is explaining, and don't say, oh, but Lou says consciousness and he says awareness. And be careful. Find a thought stream and follow that. And just realize it's just you dreaming of what you could be. And have you ever seen Google? Do yourselves a favor. Google electricity through glass. And the minute you take a shard of glass, this plane of glass, and you shoot electricity through it, you see there's the lightning. It looks like lightning. In actual fact, there's still lightning for a little while inside the glass. And you realize that's what you're doing. You were just a single thought stream, love, fell, and you, for a second, thought, what could I possibly be if I wasn't all of this? And you fractured like lightning in all directions, just energy. And eventually you'll just return to your source. And that's what we've done. And then you realize if we really want world peace, there can only be world peace when all humans recognize that the very essence of self, our soul, is one shared soul. And that which animates the dream characters is the Christ mind. The essence of what we are is pure energy. And not energy as in electricity in this world. That's artificial energy. Pure energy is just light, and not artificial light of the sun, just pure light. Lightness of being, the infinite lightness of being. And when we recognize our shared being, how could we possibly harm anyone? How could we possibly let anyone starve or suffer? We would just share of ourselves unconditionally always. Now, it doesn't mean in this world of dreams that you now give up your day job and you now just go and serve, because you're going to run out of resources. You do what you can with what you have unless you specifically design that way to go and save the rainforest, to save the animals, or save the children. You do what you can in the most natural way ever. My natural way of bringing the love of God into our collective mind is, first, I had to recognize it in self. I first had to heal this apparition, this character, this puppet, this animation. I had to heal it sufficiently of any possible obstacles to peace. And then I had to be sufficiently comfortable with playing out a specific way to bring a very simple message: just be as you are. And so I refined the rogue cowboy in Africa character in order to bring across a message to say, be yourself knowingly, without trying to be spiritual. Please don't turn A Course in Miracles into another cult, another religion. It's the one pure teaching in the world. The beautiful schools of Advaita Vedanta have tried to share in Buddhism, for example, and Taoism have shared the beautiful non-dual awareness through great teachers, Neem Karoli Baba, Papa G, Sri Ramana Maharishi, beautiful teachers. But there's no school, there's no attack. They've tried to create school. They fall apart. The minute the guru's gone, the schools fall apart. It's meant to keep spreading. Each one of us is meant to share. And hence the call for teachers for God. Don't call yourself a teacher. Just share yourself lovingly. Like you bump into someone in the elevator. You smile at a stranger in the street. You call a friend that's struggling. You just share and be present. Don't give advice. There's enough vices in this world. Don't add more vice. Don't try and convert. Don't try and preach. Don't try and teach them non-dual. Show up. Be present. Hold the love you are for each other in a holding space, and go there. Share. Be kind. And if you can't be kind, be quiet. Look at something, read something, and either you comment with a kind word or you shut up. It's so simple. If you can't be kind, be quiet. And if you can't be quiet, go away. Go somewhere until you can be. And be yourself knowingly and realize, see the face of Christ. It's not the face of Jesus. It's the face of love. It's recognizing shared being. Seeing the face of Christ is recognizing our shared being, is recognizing God is the love with which we love. The essence of myself is God's love. The essence of you is God's love. We share that one indivisible shared essence. We share love. Never forget, as I fell asleep, I'll tell it as a story, as I fell asleep, fractured myself. I fractured my forgetfulness. But the essence of what I am went with each fracture. And as I fractured deeper and deeper and deeper and further and further and further into 9 septillion thought forms that took form, within my forgetfulness and each fracture remains the holy memory of what I am. The holy memory, when accessed, is the present moment awareness. While it lies hidden within ourselves, it's the holy memory, the holy voice for God. When it lies hidden, as we access it, it becomes the voice. And as we become it, it becomes our present moment awareness. Be that knowingly. In whatever makeup, the makeup's irrelevant. And realize all obstacles come from, I forgot what I am. I imagined something created me. And because I created energy and destroyed energy, I imagined that what created me could possibly destroy me too. And fear entered my awareness. The minute I imagined I could be destroyed, I imagined why I'd be destroyed. And so I imagined I wasn't good enough. I was unworthy. Therefore, I was abandoned and rejected because I wasn't good enough. And I was going to get punished. And I started to feel guilty. And because I felt guilty, I wanted to prove to whatever made me that I wasn't guilty. I am innocent. Because deep within us all, we are innocent. It's the truth. We are all innocent. It's true. And so what I try to do is to project it outwards and to say to this fictitious imaginary God that I believed was vengeful, I'm innocent and they are to blame. So they're at fault. And that's why I point. And while I point, there's 3 fingers pointing straight back at me, and one saying thumbs up to God. And so it's all me. And so what I see, the faults I see in the world are within me, and maybe not even just this character, but in my collective mind. And so when I can forgive the world, I forgive myself. When I forgive myself, I forgive the world. When I heal myself, I heal the world. Why? Because I'm a fractured part of the whole world. And the only reason we're all here is to awaken to self, to be healed self. And as each one of us takes full responsibility for healing our collective joining mind, we heal collectively. 2,000 years ago came a fractured part of ourselves, the brother, Jesus, figured it out to such an extent he was able to demonstrate resurrection and ascension, which is the ascension of awareness, not of the body. There's nowhere to take the body. And he left a beautiful message. And the memory of our brother remains in our collective dreaming mind to be accessed, as in every other brother that's come before, and the teachings of the Jesus and every other great master that's come since is now accessible to all of us because it's in our collective awareness. No one's channeling anyone. We're all channels of our one true self. You're channeling some higher, you're channeling yourself. There is no higher self in essence. There's only your true self. In the dream, it may appear to be layers and levels. But the essence of all of it, skip through all that shit. Skip through all those layers and levels and just go straight to source. Be present here now. You simply be quiet. Ask to be shown. Give gratitude for whatever. For the car, for the wife, for the spouse, for the kid, for the whatever. Give gratitude. Be grateful. Be grateful that you're becoming aware of being aware. Be grateful that you found a way to remember self and release yourself from suffering, sin, fear, and guilt. Give gratitude. And then at some stage, when the gratitude becomes you, extend it. And extension begets extension. It's not law of attraction. It's law of reciprocity. And what's given to one is given to all. And we extend and it's given. And as you give, God extends himself into you. And the more you share, the more you have. And the more you have, the more you are. The more you are, the more you share. And it's all one indivisible self. And you want to do this. And it's free. As your ministry. Let your life be a ministry. And what is a ministry? It's a testimony to the remembrance of self in your own unique way so that you can show others Everyone has to do it their own unique way, like bicycle spokes on a wheel. We all moved out from the hub in all directions. And just like bicycle spokes, we'll go towards the hub. And that one may be that music, and that one is mathematics, and that one is religion, and that one's science. It's all the same language. And as you start converging on the hub, it's the same, no matter words or symbols twice removed, because it's the same. Love is love. Love is I am. I am is God. And it becomes simple, natural, effortless. Path of least resistance. It's meant to be effortless because we took great effort in moving away from God. We took great effort in making manifest this huge biblical disaster called the universe and the stories that play in it. Huge effort. And that's why we get so angry when someone attacks our idea, because it took such effort to hang on to it. Guilt, guilty, the devil, Satan, hell, damnation. It took effort to build illusion. It's effortless to dissolve illusion, return to awareness. Within you is the holy memory of what you are. Holy memory, holy self, Holy Spirit. And the minute you access holy memory becomes present moment awareness. Be that knowingly, just as you are. And all it takes is you've now realized what you are. You don't need to now. If you're really struggling with something, give it permission to be in your awareness. Then look at it and realize, to where do these thoughts appear? Where do they come from? And to whom do they appear? If they appear to me, they cannot be mine. They're my false thoughts. So who's observing? Become that. Be the observer. Be the decision maker. And from noisy thoughts of people, places, things, and events, right, wrong, good, bad, history, the future, return to present moment, silence, stillness. Be here now. I am. Full stop. God is. Full stop. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Amen. Again, again, again. Thoughts come. Present. Here now. Thank you. Thoughts come. Starve them of your attention. Intention creates tension. Attention takes you from I am to I am this, I am that. Bring it back. Take away the attention from subject, object. Subjects, because you're observing yourself through 8 billion subjects on this planet. Get rid of the subjects, get rid of the objects, return to awareness, observer. I am. God is. Be now. Be as you are. Gratitude begets gratitude. Love begets love. Share yourself lovingly. Be yourself knowingly. Thanks for joining me. No more stay.